Hello, it's Chastity White Rose, and I have a very emotional topic that I need to speak about. A video that I want to record while I have the chance. Now, what I'm about to tell you may seem like complete nonsense, but if you listen to what I have to say, instead of just commenting on how messy my hair is, then you will understand what I mean. You see, I am a bastard. And the reason I say that I'm a bastard is because my parents' marriage is illegitimate. And by that, I don't mean that they were not legally married when I was born or when I was conceived. That is not what I mean. What I mean is the whole marriage was a sham. It's a scam. It's a big lie. Because here's the thing is, my mother did not want to marry my father. And this must be clearly understood. She went to college, and my father would not leave her alone. She did not want to date him. She did not want to marry him. She tried to get away from him, but he would not give up. Eventually, he brainwashed her into thinking that it was God's will for her to marry him. And so she was convinced that it was the right thing. But the thing is, she didn't want to date him. She didn't want anything to do with him, at least back then. And the interesting thing is, my father did not keep any of his wedding vows. He was a liar. I feel like he was a compulsive liar who got pleasure from lying because he lied about everything. And regardless of what he says, I don't believe him, and I don't have contact with my father. But the reason that I'm telling people about this, because this is a sensitive topic, but the reason that I'm telling you about this is because you must understand causality. You must understand when you talk about issues of marriage, when you talk about promises, when you talk about consent, when you talk about rape, you're talking about a lot of stuff. And people don't realize the implications of what they are saying. See, here's the thing. It's not that my father raped my mother in the traditional sense, as most people describe, physically, violently overtaking her and having sex with her. But I still will call my father a rapist, just as I can call myself a bastard, using it in the traditional sense. And that is because he was a liar, and because the marriage wasn't truly consensual. My mother wanted to learn music. She could have had degrees in music and could pursue her music education and done so much in her life if it were not for my father coming and ruining everything. Now, I don't know what my parents will think about this video if either my mother or father see it. But this must be said. See, my mother considers me to be a good thing that came as a result of her marriage to my father. Why she had to be married to him for 18 long years, I don't know. Except that, she also was brainwashed that divorce was wrong. She didn't want to marry him, in the first place. She also didn't want to be with him, but she was convinced by Christians that divorce was a sin. So Christianity screwed my mom over twice, and this has a lot to do with why I hate religion, why I hate my father, and it's a very strange thing because, let's just put it this way, because my mom didn't want to get involved with my father in the first place, that makes all sexual intercourse, by extension, rape. It doesn't matter if they were legally married. It doesn't matter if she had sex with him because she wanted to conceive biological children, which she did. She wanted to have kids. So she consented, but not to the marriage in the first place. And understand that if my father hadn't violated my mother's will, if my father had not done that and harassed her until he finally convinced her to marry him, he probably just wanted sex, or he wanted a slave, as he used my mom as a slave. You know, but if it were not for him, I would not be here. And this is true, and I realize that I am a product of lies. I am a product of rape. My father's a liar. My father's a rapist. And that is the truth of how I see my father. Because he never meant any of his wedding vows, because my mom didn't want to date him or marry him in the first place, how can I describe him as anything but a liar and a rapist? That is what I think of my father. And if that wasn't bad enough, he divorced her and fought with her for custody over me. And she had to sell everything she had just to get custody of me. And she never did fully pay off the lawyer, from what I remember she told me. And my father never paid child support. And he never sent reports of his income like he was ordered to do. So my father completely screwed up my mother's life, and he played the major role in causing my existence. And he didn't take care of me, and he didn't pay child support, and he put my mother through emotional hell. And this is why I don't have anything to do with my father. But the reason I'm telling you this, besides the fact that, you know, it's the truth, and it's therapeutic to get it out, because I think about it every day, and it bothers me. But I believe this has a lot to do with my opinion on the rape exception. Because I recently uploaded a video about my thoughts on the rape exception and why I don't agree with it. But see, there are many people who are products of rape in various ways. You know, in my case, it's because my father was a liar and my mom didn't want anything to do with him in the first place. You know, but other people are physically forcibly raped by men, and yes, these women get pregnant, and some abort and some don't. Now, this is very important to understand. So, when you say that somebody should be allowed to abort in the case of rape, or that, you know, somebody should have been aborted because they were a product of rape, you have to realize what you're saying. You are doing a horrible insult to those people by implying that they should have been murdered before birth because their father raped their mother. You have to realize the implications of what you're saying. So now, do not go around telling women to abort their children that they conceive through rape, and don't go around trying to use rape as an excuse to justify abortion. Because when you justify the rape exception, you're pretty much justifying all abortions, because anybody can just lie and say they were raped even if they were not. And that's something I thought about, which is why the rape exception is a logically invalid concept anyway. That's how I see it. But, you know, it's just so bizarre, isn't it? That people have the nerve to try to say that babies should have been murdered because their father raped their mother. There are people with the nerve to say that. But people say all kinds of horrible things. But, you know, this fact, realizing that my mom never wanted to be married to my father in the first place, makes me realize that my existence is wrong. And, you know, I actually have another video about that titled Not Meant to Be. And in it I talked about how I don't feel like I should exist because the circumstances that led to my existence were wrong. But the truth is, all of us have rapists, many rapists in our ancestry. So one should not look to their ancestors. They should not look to their parents or their grandparents or any of their ancestors back throughout human history or throughout the history of evolution. Because if you look to your ancestors to try to justify your existence, you will sadly be disappointed. And logically, I know that my value as a person and my value of my life and what I do in my life and how I live my life has nothing to do with what an evil man my father was. I know that logically. But it's really difficult. It's really difficult to look in the mirror and not be reminded of my father. It's very difficult to see my own body and not think of my father. And as a result, this is just the way I feel. I hate my own body, just like I hate my father. And that's just how I feel about it, and maybe hate is too strong of a word, but that's just the most expressive word that I can use to describe how I feel about my father, about my parents' marriage, about rape, and about how people talk about the rape exception. People are so cruel. They're so insensitive to rape victims. They're so those pro-choice people who try to use rape as their tool to promote abortion, they are being insensitive not only to the babies conceived from rape, but they are also being disrespectful to the women who have been raped, because they're using their situations for their own political gain. That's what they're doing. And if you don't realize that abortion is a money-making business, just like the meat and dairy industry, then you're beyond hope. I see it, and my job is not to argue with you over abortion, and that's why I dislike talking about abortion, but I have so many thoughts, so many things I need to get out. And you know what? I'm lonely, and I don't have enough friends that truly understand me in this aspect of my life. And so I like to think that when I record my YouTube videos and spill out my emotions, that it helps somebody. And if it helps you, that's wonderful. And that is the truth. And I really don't have anything to add to that. I have spoken.